Video games have the unique ability to provide a new perspective on sensitive issues. They can allow players to experience things that no other medium can ever dream of doing. Among the Sleep shows players how the abuse of a child by the one that is supposed to love them can affect a child's perception of reality, their perception of the family dynamic, the perception of the role of mother. Among the Sleep is developed by Krillbyte Studios and is about a child whose mother is suffering from postnatal depression and how the toddler interprets these experiences. For those who don't know, postnatal depression is a condition that is suffered by a mother following childbirth. The condition generally arises due to hormone changes, the psychological adjustment to motherhood, and heavy fatigue. Though mothers who suffer from this condition may love their children, if left unattended, it can impact the well-being of the baby. But due to society's ingrained perception of mothers always being happy after having children, and that they must love them unconditionally, it really makes it difficult for women to acknowledge that they may be suffering from postnatal depression, and they may refuse to get help for fear of being judged. So this is a review, so I am going to discuss the game's mechanics, the story, whether I liked it or not, pretty standard kind of stuff. But I also want to look into how does Among the Sleep implement its underlying theme of postnatal depression? Does it do it effectively and justify it being there, or is it just implemented poorly and just makes the game worse? Well, let's find out, shall we? I will say my opinions on the success of the underlying message for later on in the video. But first, let's just discuss the story. The story begins as a toddler, your player character, is having his birthday party at home with his mother. During this celebration, there is a knock on the door. The mother gets up to answer it and gets into a verbal argument with a male voice. The mother rejoins the baby alone, but has a gift in her hands. Clearly shaken up, the mother takes the child upstairs to their bedroom. She puts him down and gives him the gift, which she looks at with resentment. But before she can completely open the package up, the phone rings from outside the baby's room. The mother leaves the baby alone in the room so that she can answer the phone. This is where we meet your gift, an ally throughout the game, a sentient teddy bear named Teddy.
My name is Teddy. Nice to meet you. Hey, what's your name?
Having some sort of doll as your comrade is a really cool idea, and only the coolest of people actually do that kind of stuff. After playing with Teddy for a bit, a cupboard door opens and you decide to venture inside.
We need someplace very dark. How about your closet?
Look, Teddy, we've had some fun, but I really don't want to fucking venture into the cupboard full of nightmares. So I'm just going to walk away, and I'm going to hang over here and not do that shit. So yeah, thanks man, no problems, bye-bye. So you decide to walk in the cupboard with the fucking teddy bear, and once inside, you realise that the cupboard is expanded beyond any perceivable size. It's just fucking huge. You wander around for a bit, you get told by Teddy the place is really spooky, though nothing really ever shows up, and eventually your mother opens the cupboard door and tells you,
"You've got to stop hiding from Mommy,"
and puts you to bed. In the middle of the night, you are disturbed from your sleep. You wake up to witness Teddy being dragged away by an unknown force. After witnessing this, your crib is flung upside down. You decide to try and rescue your companion and wander downstairs. You hear a humming noise and eventually you find your friend spiraling around in a washing machine. It seems someone was trying to clean him. Dude. Ugh. I haven't washed you in ages. You're fucking disgusting. Ow! You rescue Teddy from the dreaded washing machine and decide that you need to locate your mother, though she is nowhere to be found. Instead, a dark, shadowy figure is roaming around your once peaceful home. You are able to avoid it, but are transported to a surreal world. Here, you find out what has happened to your mother. She is locked behind an elaborate contraption that can only be unlocked once you gather items from 4 memories of your mother, while being stalked by a variety of shadowy figures. Among the Sleep is a first-person exploration game that dabbles into horror about halfway through. It's pretty much like Outlast and Amnesia with a touch of Slender Man, though it is extremely watered down. This means you'll be sneaking around darkly lit rooms while avoiding any and all monsters. Due to its clear influences, and because you're a baby, fighting back is never an option. So, when you see a big scary monster, your best course of action is to just crawl and hide somewhere. Unfortunately, the monsters do not really pose much of a threat. If, not when, you encounter a monster, they are easily given away by the noise that occurs before they appear. If you are too close, the monster will scream and your vision will blur. As soon as you hear this, just run under anything, and once the monster arrives, it will just awkwardly run into what you're hiding under until it loses interest and just runs away. If they see you hide, there are no repercussions. They won't try and grab you or do anything to try and get you. Apparently, knee-high pieces of furniture completely confuse big scary monsters. Any real tension created by their presence is completely lost once you realise the stupidity of the AI. There was one moment in particular where the AI showed just how stupid it was. Unfortunately, it occurred in what started off as an extremely tense part of the game. You crawl through a small opening that ends up in you pushing open a door to get out. Upon doing so, you knock over a bottle, balancing carefully on some small boxes. As soon as that bottle smashes on the ground, a massive scream echoed through the entire area. My vision began to blur and all I could do was try and hide. After the screaming stopped, I decided to creep out of my hiding spot and wander down a hall. Upon turning a corner, I discovered something completely terrifying and amazing. Lots of bottles stacked on small boxes, all in very close proximity to each other, just scattered through the hallway. All of them are just begging to be knocked over. That moment, when I saw all those bottles, completely floored me. Such a perfect encapsulation of a get fucked kind of moment. With a massive smile on my face, I had to carefully maneuver my way through each of the bottles, taking them off the tower of boxes and placing them carefully on the ground, hoping not to have one of them break and make a noise. There was one moment in my own fucking stupidity where I decided that the best course of action was to place the bottles on a table. I watched in horror as one of the bottles slowly rolled off the edge and smashed on the ground. I have never ran for cover so quick in my entire life. These moments are what horror games are made for. Unfortunately, the build-up did not live up to the expectations. Like the rest of the monsters, this one just wandered around aimlessly and bumped into my hiding spot. Though, once it did decide to leave, it just ran into a stool and became stuck on the knee-high piece of furniture. After a while, the monster just disappeared before my very eyes, and in that moment, all the tension and build-up was completely wasted because the monsters and their terrible AI. The monster encounters feel like a short roller coaster ride. You start the game barely encountering any creatures due to the game wanting to slowly build up their reveal. Sure, it's suspenseful knowing that they will eventually come, but because it's taking such a long time to arrive, you just end up bored. Though, when they do finally make an appearance worth witnessing, the game is over the halfway mark, and it's pretty much a big letdown. It just jams as many monster encounters as it can as it rushes to the finishing line. What happens is a lackluster introduction with no real tension due to the lack of any real threat, and a rushed conclusion with too many so-called scary moments that end too quickly. I'm okay with the game showing restraint, but you eventually have to let go. Among the Sleep realizes this all too late. Though, you don't just crawl around from one area to the next avoiding monsters. No. Most of the time, your progression is hindered by puzzles. Puzzles, because horror. Due to the nature of the player character, I expected that the developers would think of unique and interesting puzzles that would fully utilize the unique perspective the player has. Unfortunately, this is not the case. Most puzzles play on the fact that you are a baby, and because you're a baby, you cannot reach things that adults can reach. This means most of the puzzles will consist of you pushing furniture or opening cupboards in order to reach a door handle or item that will allow you to progress. I don't spend too much time around babies, mainly due to the fact that they terrify me. But do babies have superhuman strength? With the amount of furniture this toddler can move by himself, it seems like he is destined for a career in the removalist industry. Initially, I thought that this was interesting and couldn't wait to see how the developer expanded upon it. I was naive to think that would happen. Apart from a few puzzles, this is what you will be mainly doing with your spare time in Among the Sleep. It even leads to pieces of furniture being placed in ridiculous locations that make no sense within the environment, just because you need to pull a handle that's out of the baby's reach. Did someone just fucking rest this little piece of furniture next to a well for some reason? Is this entire town full of people that have height difficulties? I feel as though the developers knew that they wanted you to play as a baby, knew they wanted puzzles, but were not entirely sure about how they would make these different aspects gel with each other. The fun doesn't stop here because you are not alone in your adventures. Throughout the game, you are accompanied by your teddy bear, Teddy. I feel like I've seen that somewhere else before. But where?
His name is Teddy. Teddy, this is David.
Hello, Teddy.
Hello, David.
He serves several purposes in this game. One, to speak on your behalf and as a certified exposition dump that is permanently attached to your back. Kinda like Master Yoda, though unlike Yoda, he isn't charming or a well-developed character. I believe that Teddy was supposed to represent the toddler's inner thoughts manifested. Though interesting, like many things in this game, it was used ineffectively. His other contribution is to provide you comfort. Yes, comfort. You see, if an area becomes too dark, you can hold Teddy and he will emit a light, albeit a small amount. This can help you navigate the extremely dark locations in the game. Do you have the same powers as well, Batman? I guess that's why they call you the Dark Knight? But his hidden talent is pretty useless. The light he emits is minimal at best, and hardly increases your ability to see. In fact, when using this ability, it actually darkens the background of the level and only lights up an extremely small area in front of you. This makes it hard for you to see anything in the background, and also doesn't really help you to see anything close up. This is only useful in extremely tight hallways and nooks, which are only ever present near the end of the game. The rest of Among the Sleep takes place in either houses whose hallways are too wide to be properly illuminated by a small teddy bear, which leads you having to rub your face against a wall in order to see anything, or wide open fields where there are no walls for the light to bounce off, leaving it completely useless. Thankfully, you can just increase the brightness of the game in the options menu and completely nullify the need for Teddy. Well, Batman, this is it. It's where I say goodbye. It's been fun. When you can actually see the environments, they look pretty cool. There are not too many locales that you explore, though the ones that are present offer a distinct level aesthetic that separates them from each other. The first level is your home. This is the tamest of the environments and faithfully recreates the look of a suburban house. It is only when you enter the surreal world do the environments become truly interesting. The first area you explore is what seems to be a backyard or a playground, littered with like jungle gyms, slides, all that kind of stuff. The level ends in you scaling a treehouse, which gives me terrible flashbacks of Far Cry and Assassin's Creed. No, Ubisoft, no, I don't want to scale any more towers. I don't want to scale any more towers. No, fuck off. I don't want to do it. Fuck off. The next area takes pieces from the home from the first area and the playground area from the second location and just mixes them together. It's okay, but I would have preferred something entirely new than reusing or altering older assets. One section of this area was supposed to be this fantastic, intense moment with you and the monster, but the level layout ruined it completely. You enter a room that is littered with tall shelves with hundreds of books on them. You see the monster in the distance, but you also see a memory, and you know that you need to get to the other side of the area to get that little piece of the puzzle. Unfortunately, the level designers went a bit overboard with the abundance of bookshelves and just how big the area was. The size of the area makes avoiding the monster an extremely easy task. Also, the sheer amount of bookshelves to hide under made the monster completely harmless, and because of the large amount of them in the area, it meant that you could just safely crawl under each shelf until you reach the other side of the level. And since the monster cannot grab you from your hiding place, you just have to wait until it loses interest and wanders off to the other side of the area. What could have been an actual tense moment with the monster was completely ruined by the level design. But I don't want to end this section on a sour note. So, let's talk about my favourite area, the crazy house. This level fully takes the Alice in Wonderland aesthetic and just runs with it. Again, it reuses assets from your house. But instead of just reusing them like in the previous level, it actually builds upon them and creates an environment that is truly dreamlike, creating a familiarity in the unfamiliar. Some of the ceilings are so tall you can't even see where they stop. Dozens of doors are littered throughout the area, some leading to nothing but a lamp. Each room you enter feels unique and offers some interesting areas to explore. It felt like you were in an amusement park or a madhouse, and it was pretty cool. Overall, the levels were a mixed bag that ever so slightly leaned on the positive side. I understand that the game is quite short. I did complete it in about 3 hours, but the level designers needed to offer more variety instead of having a large portion of the game consist of reused assets. Upon gathering all of the items from your mother's memories, you finally locate her. She is sitting on the kitchen floor, her back against some drawers, bottle in hand, damaged teddy bear in the other. You were witnessing a woman suffer from postnatal depression, and you interpreted it in a way that makes sense for a child. You go to comfort her, but she screams and pushes you away. Your vision blurs in the same way as when you see a monster. You hear a knock on the door, and as you go to answer it, you can hear your mother sobbing in the background. Upon opening the door, a white light appears and a male voice speaks.
Hi there, little one.
It is your father, and he has come to rescue you. And the game just ends. Well, since all the fun and games are out of the way, let's ask the serious question. How does Among the Sleep treat postnatal depression? Well, in my opinion, pretty fucking poorly. So, the entire game is a toddler living out experiences and situations of living with a mother who is suffering from postnatal depression. And sometimes the developers effectively utilize this theme in several moments that, upon reflection, were quite clever. As I mentioned before, the scenario where the player must navigate through a hallway of bottles stacked onto boxes, and how if the baby knocks one over, the monsters will scream and come for them. Well, this section is the toddler's perception of his mother's drinking problem, and that when she is intoxicated, he must carefully tiptoe around her so that he does not anger her. You don't realise the importance of the bottles until the end when you see her crying with an empty bottle in hand. Another moment is when you grab the final piece needed to free your mother, and as you begin to slide down the final pipe, a monster grabs Teddy and dangles you over an empty abyss. You desperately hold onto Teddy's arm so that you don't fall. But Teddy's arm rips and you fall into the dark abyss. You don't realise this until you find the tattered Teddy lying next to your intoxicated mother, that you realise she was the one holding you up in the air as you held onto Teddy, and when Teddy's arm ripped, you fell onto the ground and possibly injured yourself. Shocked from what she has done, your distraught mother collapses and succumbs to her emotions. These moments were moving and made me reflect on my time with the game, but then I realised how badly they screwed up. The mother. The mother is the monster. I don't know whether the developers realised how insensitive it is to cast a mother who is suffering from postnatal depression as a literal monster, but it really is. I know that this is supposed to be the toddler's interpretation of his mother, and for some that may excuse her representation, and I could understand that reasoning. But let me put this into perspective. Postnatal depression is a serious condition. Though there is no solid number, it is estimated that 10 to 15% of mothers suffer from it. It is a complex condition that can lead to several issues, such as anxiety, social withdrawal, and depressive mood swings. It can severely interfere with the developing relationship between a mother and their baby. It can also negatively impact the relationship between parents, as well as cause distress for the mothers themselves. Having the monster be a mother who is suffering from postnatal depression is suggesting that women who suffer from postnatal depression are monsters. That is a very literal interpretation, but it is the developer's use of the mother within the game that allows me to reach this conclusion. When using such a sensitive issue within a game, or any form of media for that matter, some care needs to be taken. I don't know the developer's understanding of postnatal depression, and I'm not going to suggest that they didn't do their research. But the way the mother is represented suggests that they didn't know how players were going to interpret her condition. Women suffering from postnatal depression already face a stigma from society, and representations like this don't help relieve that stigma. Women who suffer from postnatal depression are not monsters, they just need help. Among the Sleep could have been great. It had a unique premise, a unique perspective, but it just fell into the same old horror tropes like all the games of recent years. And just what made it so much worse is that its mishandling of postnatal depression made this game look insensitive and kind of just fucked the whole thing up, really. And that's a shame. The lazy use of the monster made the horror part of this game completely ineffective. Instead of being a force to be reckoned with, they just ended up being a nuisance. The puzzles present were extremely simple and borderline pointless. I wish they had tried to take advantage of the unique perspective the player has and created some truly fun puzzles. For some, Teddy may seem charming, but like most things in this game, is just underutilized. The level design and environments had some interesting moments, though reusing several assets made some levels feel repetitive. As a video game, I can't really recommend Among the Sleep. It just felt like a watered down retread of better horror games from the past few years. As a commentary on postnatal depression, it completely falls flat. Sure, some moments work, and that is because they cleverly incorporate aspects of the mother's suffering into the level design and aspects of the game. But when she is twisted into a monster, that is when the game loses me. Games can discuss sensitive issues and can even add to the conversation by providing an interactive avenue that can allow a greater understanding of the core issue. Instead, Among the Sleep uses postnatal depression as a way of having a big scary monster try and scare you, and fails to add anything to the conversation. Though, if you do decide to give it a go, its short length means that it won't consume much of your time, and will allow you to quickly move on to better things. Well, that was Among the Sleep, and that took fucking forever to make. It was only meant to be a short video. While I was reviewing the thing, I thought, why not get something small out so I can just, have content occurring more often. But it kind of turned into something a bit longer than I wanted it to be, but I'm glad that I actually got it out, and I'm glad I could share my opinions on what it was trying to discuss. If you liked the video, give it a cheeky little thumbs up, subscribe, comment, tell me how you feel the game went. Were my opinions valid, or do you disagree? I'd like to hear what everyone has to say so we can discuss this kind of topic. It should be discussed. That's my cough because I got a sickness. Thank you, Madi Ryan, for the lovely art you see at the beginning and at the end of these videos. She's fucking awesome. Links in the description below to check her shit out, and if you need any art done, hit her up. She's always keen to do it. The Thing video should be coming out some point soon. I just don't know when, but thank you for your patience, and I hope to see everyone again soon. Bye-bye.